Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome as we get set for the official weigh-ins tomorrow night here in Fresno. Spike presents Bellator MMA. Last September, we were here. So glad to be back here at the Save Mart Center. For those that are joining us on the live stream, we welcome you as well to Fresno, California. We'll have your fighters on the scale here just momentarily. For those in the local area, tomorrow night, doors will open at 4:30 p.m. Fights to follow. Those prelims, as they are every single time with Bellator MMA, can be seen live in real time, live on Spike.com. And then as Bellator MMA does on Friday nights, we'll go live at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 8 o'clock Central Time as Spike presents Bellator MMA. Tickets are available at Ticketmaster.com. If you're here on site or anywhere in the Fresno area, you can stop by the Save Mart Center box office. And, of course, Bellator.com always has your ticket details. Tomorrow night at Bellator MMA, the women's division will be featured once again inside the Bellator cage. And two former Bellator world champions determined to take those belts back. They'll be on tomorrow night's fight card in the co-feature and in the main event. I'm Bellator cage announcer Michael Williams, and joining us here for the weigh-ins, the lovely ladies just behind me, Mercedes Terrell and Summer Daniels, the lovely ladies of Bellator MMA. Sanctioning this weekend's event and overseeing today's weigh-ins, the California State Athletic Commissioner. It's Commissioner John Frierson is Chair Executive Officer, Mr. Andy Foster. In just a moment, we'll get your fighters on the scale. We'll see Mr. Scott Coker here momentarily as well. In fact, right now, let's do it. If you please welcome one half of the broadcast team for Spike TV for Bellator MMA. He'll put the fighters on the scale. Please give it up for Mr. Jimmy Smith.
Thank you so much. Let's get it started in the bantamweight division, 135 pounds. First to the scale, fighting out of Fresno, California. Please welcome Paul Reis. Pro record of 5-2, 3 knockouts. He stands 5'6". 135 and a half for Paul Reis. Roger on the blue, buddy. And please welcome his opponent, fighting out of Grass Valley, California. Please welcome Nick Sperling. Pro record of 3-2, 2 knockouts, 1 submission. $133 on the dot for Nick Sperling. Partner on the red, buddy. They'll be starting it off for us. Give it up for the bantamweights, Paul Reis versus Nick Sperling, ladies and gentlemen. Moving up the scale to the middleweight division, 185 pounds, Blake Watkins versus George Zuniga. First to the scale, fighting out of Bakersfield, California. Please welcome Blake Watkins. Undefeated at 4-0. All of his wins, finishes, 1 knockout, 3 submissions. $185 and a half for Blake Watkins. And please welcome his opponent, fighting out of Fresno, California. Please welcome George Zuniga. Also undefeated at 3-0, 1 knockout, 1 submission. $185 on the dot for George Zuniga. Both fighters undefeated. Let's give it up for him. Blake Watkins versus George Zuniga. Moving down to the featherweight division, 145 pounds, Emilio Chavez versus Arciniega. First to the scale from Fullerton, California. Please welcome Emilio Chavez. Record of 7-5 as a pro, 1 knockout, 2 submissions. $146 on the dot for Emilio Chavez. And please welcome his opponent, fighting out of Dos Palos, California. Please welcome Arciniega. Very experienced at 14-4, 1 knockout, 8 submissions. $146 on the dot for Arciniega. Right here, guys. Moving on to the welterweight division, 170 pounds, Marco Damiani versus Mason Fowler. First to the scale, all the way from Croatia. Please welcome Marco Damiani. $170 on the dot for Marco Damiani. Marco, right here, bro. And please welcome his opponent, fighting out of Fresno, California. Please welcome Mason Fowler. A record of 1-0, that one win by submission. $169 for Mason Fowler. Let's give it up for the welterweights, Marco Damiani versus Mason Fowler, ladies and gentlemen. Next fight, a catchweight, 160 pounds, Andrew Ram versus Adam Pickati. First to the scale from Bremerton, Washington. Please welcome Andrew Ram. Record of 3-1 as a pro. $160.5 for Andrew Ram. Gonna towel him? It's good? He gets it down? Okay, thanks. And please welcome his opponent, fighting out of Half Moon Bay, California, Adam Pickati. Undefeated at 4-0, 2 of those wins by knockout. $160 on the dot for Adam Pickati. Let's give it up for him. Andrew Ram versus Adam Pickati. Moving on to the lightweights, 155 pounds, Ryan Tobar versus Jonathan Tristano. First to the scale, fighting out of Modesto, California. Please welcome Ryan Tobar. Record of 3-1. All of his wins, finishes, 2 knockouts, 1 submission. $155 on the dot for Ryan Tobar. And please welcome his opponent, fighting out of Fresno, California. Please welcome Jonathan Tristano. Undefeated at 4-0, 2 wins by knockout.
How awesome are those shorts?
155.5 for Jonathan Tristano. Let's give it up for the lightweights, 155 pounds, Ryan Tobar versus Jonathan Tristano. On to the light heavyweight division, 205 pounds, Cody Sons versus John Paul Elias. First to the scale, fighting out of Bakersfield, California. Please welcome Cody Sons. $205 on the dot for Cody Sons. And please welcome his opponent, fighting out of Madera, California. Please welcome John Paul Elias. Undefeated at 2-0, both of his wins, finishes. He stands 6'4". $205 on the dot for John Paul Elias. Let's give it up for the light heavyweights, Cody Sons versus John Paul Elias, ladies and gentlemen. And we move back down the scale to the lightweights, 155 pounds. Luis Jauregui versus Nick Bustamante. First to the scale, fighting out of Madera, California. Please welcome Luis Jauregui. A record of 2-1, both of his wins by knockout. $154 for Luis Jauregui. And please welcome his opponent, fighting out of Fresno, California, Nick Bustamante. Undefeated at 2-0, 1 knockout, 1 submission.
Hey, we'll see.
$156 on the dot for Nick Bustamante. Let's give it up for the lightweights, Luis Jauregui versus Nick Bustamante, ladies and gentlemen. And on to the televised portion of our show. Of course, check us out on Spike TV. We start out in the welterweight division, 170 pounds. Clayton McFarland versus Chris Honeycutt. First to the scale, fighting out of Vista, California. Please welcome Clayton McFarland. Undefeated at 4-0, 1 knockout, 2 submissions, stands 5'11". $170.5 for Clayton McFarland. Clayton, you're taking on a very tough fighter in Chris Honeycutt, but you've been nothing but smiles, nothing but excited. Tell me why.
Yeah, I mean, it's my time to shine. Bellator gave me a great chance, and I'm going to show everyone who the real champ is.
And please welcome his opponent, fighting out of Fresno, California. Please welcome Chris Honeycutt. 5-0 as a professional, 3 knockouts, 1 submission, stands 5'10". $170.5 for Chris Honeycutt. Right here, buddy. Here, with me, buddy. Go ahead. No, you can go ahead and put him on. I can wait. The last time you were in this very building in front of your hometown crowd, you didn't just win a fight, you put on a show. What can the fans expect tomorrow night?
Hey, like last fight, I like to pick people up. I like to slam on the ground and bounce them as high as I can. Ground and pound's what I do. I love it.
Love it. They'll be kicking off the televised portion of our show. Do not miss it at 170 pounds, both undefeated. Clayton McFarland versus Chris Honeycutt, ladies and gentlemen. In the women's featherweight division, 145 pounds, Gabby Holloway versus Julia Budd. First to the scale, fighting out of Culpeper, Virginia. Please welcome Gabby Holloway. Undefeated at 4-0, 1 knockout, 1 submission, and those 4 wins. She stands 5'4". $145.5 for Gabby Holloway. Gabby, you know opportunities like this against a fighter like Julia Budd only happen once or twice in a career. How do you plan to make the most of this opportunity tomorrow night?
I'm going to beat her like she kicked my dog.
That makes me really sad, actually, but kind of depressed now. And please welcome her opponent, fighting out of Port Moody, British Columbia. Please welcome Julia Budd. A record of 6-2, 3 knockouts, 1 submission, and those 6 wins. She stands 5'8". $145 on the dot for Julia Budd. Julia, we talked about this division, what it means to you to be in Bellator. It's not about winning. It's about putting on a show, making a statement. How do you make that statement tomorrow night against this opponent?
By not leaving the cage without a victory. I refuse to lose.
Let's give it up for him. Gabby Holloway versus Julia Budd, ladies and gentlemen. Moving on to the men's featherweight division, 145 pounds, Daniel Weichel versus Pat Curran. First to the scale all the way from Frankfurt, Germany. Please welcome Daniel Weichel. Very experienced, a record of 34-8, 5 knockouts, 21 submissions. He stands 5'10". $145.5 for Daniel Weichel. Daniel, I've called your fights all over the world. I've known you for a long time. What do you think of your opponent, Pat Curran? Do you think he is the toughest, most well-rounded fighter you've ever faced in the cage?
First of all, I can't tell you, Jimmy, how happy I am to be back at Bellator. And I want to tell you this. I'm here to put on a show tomorrow. People will remember my face, my name, and definitely they will remember my performance. All I can say is get your tickets or tune in on Spike TV tomorrow night.
And please welcome his opponent, fighting out of McHenry, Illinois, the former featherweight Bellator champion, Patty Mike Curran. $146 on the dot for Pat Curran. You heard what Daniel Weichel had to say. Not just a fight, a performance the fans will remember. Facing a tough, rugged, experienced fighter. What's the difference in this fight?
Yeah, I know what I'm getting into. It's going to be an exciting fight, and you know I have gold on my mind right now, and I'm coming back to the title. I want to get that championship belt again.
Do not miss this fight. Two of the best featherweights in the world. Daniel Weichel versus Pat Curran. Give it up for him.
All right, guys.
And our main event tomorrow night in the middleweight division, 185 pounds, Melvin No Mercy Manhoef versus Alexander the Storm Shlemenko. First to the scale, fighting out of Amsterdam, Netherlands. Please welcome Melvin No Mercy Manhoef. Record of 29-12-1, 27 knockouts. He stands 5'8". $186 on the dot for Melvin Manhoef. Melvin, you told me many times, I don't just go out there to fight, I go out there to entertain, I go out there so the fans remember me and my performances. What does that mean for Alexander Shlemenko tomorrow night?
He has to be prepared. He has to be prepared.
He talks with his fist, but so does his opponent. Please welcome, all the way from Omsk, Russia, Alexander the Storm Shlemenko. A record of 51-9 as a professional, 29 knockouts, 8 submissions. Bellator record of 11-3. $186 on the dot for Alexander the Storm Shlemenko. Alexi, you heard what Melvin Manhoef had to say. Be prepared. How prepared is Alexander Shlemenko for this fight?
Ты слышал, что сказал Мелвин. А насколько ты готов к этому бою?
I want to say only one. Storm is coming.
Our main event at 185, Melvin No Mercy Manhoef versus Alexander the Storm Shlemenko. Give it up for him. Do not miss this main event tomorrow night. Thank you so much, Fresno. We'll see you at the fights tomorrow night.
Jimmy Smith, thank you very much. Scott Coker, thank you. Summer Mercedes, thank you. Hey, for all that have joined us here at Save Mart Center, we thank you for joining us. Tickets are available at Ticketmaster.com or the box office as long as you're here on site. Again, doors open at 4:30 tomorrow night, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central Time. We go live on Spike for Bellator MMA. We'll see you then.